Hey mamas, birth can be unpredictable, and even when we have a plan, plans can change, and they often do. But there is hope for an incredible and beautiful experience even in the midst of changed plans and unexpected bumps in the road. In this Built to Birth podcast, we get to hear Lexi's birth story that began with an unexpected road to pregnancy, location changes for her birth, changing expectations of what labor would look like, and how she stayed anchored to her goals each step of the way. If you're loving Lexi's story, make sure that you subscribe to this channel so that you're able to hear more birth stories just like this, and throw a comment down below of questions that you might have or some encouragement for other mamas who are watching here. If you want to, you can also go to whatever podcast platform you're on and make sure you subscribe to the Built to Birth podcast, rate it, and then write a review so that your podcast platform knows to share this Built to Birth podcast with more mamas just like you. Now let's hop into Lexi's birth story.
Hi.
Hi, Lexi. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. My hair is like super wet, but I didn't care.
It looks good. I wish I had that volume.
Thank you.
I love it. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Just getting used to mom life. It's been 3 weeks, so I'm kind of sleep deprived.
Goodness. Yes, I know. We've been there.
Yeah.
But mom life is the best, right?
It's been really fun. I'm still looking at her in awe, like, oh my gosh, this really happen? Wow.
I know. I feel like it takes a while to be like, oh, okay, she's mine. Like my daughter's almost 2 and I still feel like I look at her and I'm like, are you like real? Are you mine? Did I make you?
Right. Yeah, I'm like, did this really happen? Like you came out of my vagina. This is strong.
I know, it's wild. It is so wild.
Yeah.
Wow. So
It's
3 weeks.
beautiful.
Well, thank you so much for, taking time out to share your birth story. I know that those first few weeks of being postpartum can be challenging. And so I just really appreciate you taking the time to share your birth story. I was so happy when you reached out to me and you sent me the URL for your YouTube video. I was so seriously, it brought me, I was almost crying. I was just like, that is so powerful. And so I'm so glad now that you get to share it with me and so many other mamas to really inspire and empower them. So why don't we just hop right in and kind of share a little bit about yourself and your family and kind of getting pregnant and then leading up to your birth?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I just want to thank you because I watched so many of your YouTube videos.
Oh.
And I was like, I wonder if she's on Instagram. And so when I found you after the baby, but I watched so many of your affirmations and just learning a lot about momhood and just doula and midwife work. It's so helpful. So I appreciate that.
Well, good for you for taking the reins on that too. That just shows that you wanted to have that empowering experience. And so you took that route of educating yourself so that you could be empowered through it. So that's all on you.
Yeah. But so me and my husband, we started YouTube last year. And to make a long story short, we have videos that talk about our journey to trying to get pregnant. We had to go through IVF to get pregnant. We were trying for 2 years. And then we felt led to just okay, let's just see what's going on. We found out we were having issues. Well, actually, my husband was having issues with his infertility. So we ended up going through IVF, and thank God, the first try worked. Because that stuff can be pretty, that could be pretty expensive. But that was just a long journey within itself. And after, that, we found out we were pregnant in July, which was super exciting. And then to make longer story short, COVID-19 happened.
I know. Just so much craziness.
Yeah. And honestly, we were planning on having going to a natural birthing center in Carmanos, which is a hospital that's in Michigan. And they do natural birth, but just in case, something happens, we're in the hospital. It's right, the regular, hospital is right around the corner. Okay. And across the hall, really.
Yeah.
And so that was our plan. That's what we were planning on doing. I want to say 3 weeks before my due date, we were told that the hospitals were not letting a doula or anybody else come to the hospitals, which I'm sure you've heard that story before.
Yeah.
And so we also found out that they weren't even letting our partners come in. To a certain extent. They weren't even, and then they would separate the baby from the mom. Like, it was a lot of stuff that was going on in Michigan. And even though the CDC said that you could bring somebody, hospitals were not really abiding by that rule.
Okay.
So we were extremely concerned to hear that 3 weeks before our due date. That was, that was traumatic. I feel like me and my husband had like a good day of just like straight crying. Because I couldn't imagine being without my family. I couldn't imagine even being without our doula. Because we, when you pay for a doula and you've been working with that person for a while, you kind of expect that kind of support.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Yeah, to not have that was shocking. So we ended up talking to our doula. We talked to also our birthing teacher. We had a personal birthing teacher that came to our house to help us with our birth.
Education or... Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
That's so
and
great.
she was also a doula and a birthing teacher.
Okay.
So I was just so blessed because I felt like I was surrounded by just very positive and positive women who were teaching me things that I had no idea about. And so when I told them what was going on with the hospital, actually they let me know, and I started talking to them about like, what are my options? Like, what could I do? And they told me like, why don't you talk to a midwife? And I had no idea what a midwife was. I was wondering, like, is this something, is this just another type of nurse? Like, how do you, like, what do they do?
Yeah.
And so they pretty much told me, like, you could do a home birth, and to hear a home birth 3 weeks before your due date is like, what? Like, that's shocking to me.
Yeah. What kind of emotions were you feeling when they kind of brought that up? Like, were you like resisting at first, or were you like totally uncertain or nervous, or what kind of were your emotions when they brought that up as an option?
I think I was introspective because the truth is, my husband had like a conversation with me and asked me like, how serious are you about having a natural birth? And it was, as somebody who's going into labor and delivery the first time, I was honestly very scared of labor and delivery. Like, I was scared of labor. I was scared of what I have no idea what to feel. I have no idea how to react. So something that was kind of the unknown, I was scared about.
Yeah.
And even though I was going to a natural birthing center, I think my safety net was the fact that if I couldn't handle it, if I didn't, I wasn't able to take the pain or whatever, I would be able to just walk across the hall.
Yeah.
And so to have that safety net almost taken away from me when it came to a home birth, I was very, very shocked. I was very concerned. I had to really do some introspection of what is it that I really want and why do I want it?
Yeah.
And that's honestly when I just started to read some midwife books. I started to talk to some more doulas and just really understand the process of labor. Like, what is it? How is this affecting me? How can I connect with my baby during this time? All of that. And that's when I actually started looking your YouTube up.
I love it.
But all of that really helped me to be, I don't know why, but when she brought up home birth the first time, I was very concerned. I was very nervous. But then all of a sudden, I just felt this peace over me that really helped me to see, like, okay, you are strong enough to do this. This is not something that is foreign. Many people have done home births and it has not killed them. So
yeah. And there are always risks no matter where you give birth, like there are risks at a hospital, there are risks at a birth center, there are risks at home. And so it's a matter of realizing like, okay, I have these options and what are the risks? What are the benefits? And then what am I desiring? What are my goals? Because I'm going to choose a location that aligns with my goals. And for, it isn't a home birth for all women. For some women, it's only a home birth, and so it's just really deciding what is right for you and your pregnancy and safe for your circumstances. And so it's awesome. Did you start feeling that peace once you started educating yourself a little bit more on, like what happens during labor and the connection that you have to your body and your baby? Is that when you started feeling more peace?
I felt that learning more about just understanding that your body is doing the work for you, and connecting with your baby and realizing that, you know, like one of the affirmations that I think you probably saw in the video was like, your body was made for birthing in mind. I was like, that really like changed my perspective of just, it's not just this like painful experience that you're going through. It's a emotional, like beautiful transition into motherhood. And it's mental, it's mind over matter. I felt like the more that I inform myself, the more that I realize that everybody doesn't have the same story, and you stop hearing all of those horror stories about it. It just gives you a peace and a comfort. And me and my husband, we prayed about it, and it helped us to just really, and we meditated almost every day. Like I felt like this isolation, even though there's so much stuff going on, it helped me to really zero in my thinking and zero in my mental thoughts into like, okay, I can do this. How can I get my mind stronger than my fear and my anxiety over it? So.
That's so powerful. I love that you said that. It is like such a mental game. And if you can strengthen your mind to believe that your body was meant to do it, because your body's going to do it. It's really your mind that tells you that it can't, you know? Yeah. And so I love that, you know, you chose to educate yourself on your options, and in doing so you are able to be empowered by the decision that you made, and that's so great that you were able to have your husband on board with it too, and that you guys kind of took that together in stride, you know, deciding how it was going to play out for you guys. So then did you find a midwife then, like 3 weeks before your birth?
Yes, we actually found a midwife, I want to say that weekend, and it was perfect because she was absolutely amazing. When I tell you, like my mom-in-law and my mom came, and they were, you know, they were for kind of doing a home birth, but they were also concerned about like, you know, the simple questions like what happens with the cord, what happens, you know, if you know, you're feeling too much pain. Like, how do you know if it's an emergency versus not? And she tackled all of those questions. She was a paramedic for like 16 years. She worked in a hospital. Like, so I was very surprised at how much information she knew about like birth and home birth. And she's done like over 300 deliveries. So I was very shocked about that. And again, that also gave me so much more peace about doing it. And the fact that I'm privileged enough that I'm able to, you know, I'm healthy enough to do a home birth was a blessing for me too. But yeah, so I did that. And the crazy thing is that I really thought that I knew my birth plan even after that. And things just kept changing. We had to change the location of where I was going to have a long home birth to a week before my due date to where we are right now, where we're living right now. And again, because of COVID and stuff that was going on with our family, we couldn't do it where we wanted to. And again, I have my thoughts of like what I wanted my birth to look like. I was like, oh, I'm going to have my birth be like 6 hours or 3 hours. Like I've seen people do like labor and delivery in 1 hour. Like I could do that. That was not my story. But I'm thankful because I ended up having to deliver for 32 hours. And I'm probably longer than that because I didn't realize I was having contractions until they started to get strong. And I was having, and when I say like 32 hours, it was like 8:30 p.m. And I was having contractions every 5 minutes, lasting a minute.
Wow.
And that was
so it was like almost like you were in active labor from the beginning when you started feeling your surges. It almost was like, all right, here we go. Because I remember watching that in your video. Your husband was like, maybe tomorrow night we'll have her here. And you're like, wow, like, yeah, maybe she'll be here.
Yes, I was like, I was in full agreement. We had like a follow-up video where I was telling our viewers, like, I definitely thought it was going to be earlier than what my husband even said, because I was just believing, I was focused. I'm like, this is going to happen. And especially considering I was having them every 5 minutes and they were 1 minute, like that's the 5-1-1 rule. Yeah. But I realized that everybody's different. Yeah. And that was like something that I was really like praying for and just meditating, saying that this is not going to last as long as I think it would. And it ended up being longer, but I'm thankful because the information and the meditation, all of that helped me to get through this long process and it didn't even feel, now looking back, it doesn't feel long, but in the moment I felt like it was taking forever.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's just, again, I think it goes back to what you put in your toolbox with that education and with those meditations and with, those movements and your birth team. Like all of those are tools that you bring out in your labor experience. And it's like so awesome that you had all of those tools to bring out so that you could know like, okay, this doesn't just because it's long doesn't mean anything's wrong. It just means, baby has to do all of these things in order to be born. My body has to do all of these things in order to be born.
Right.
And so being able to trust the process even when it goes a different way than we had planned. And I feel like that is a challenge sometimes for moms is in even wanting to write a birth plan, or even think of a birth plan is, well, what happens if it doesn't go according to plan? And maybe we can answer that question a little bit later, but why don't you kind of walk us through now that 32-hour labor that you had, some of the things that happened and what you did to, manage those sensations that you had, the support that you had from your birth team. You want to kind of share with us your birth story?
Yes. So we had our family pretty much quarantined with us during that time. We had them as soon as we knew that we were doing a home birth, we asked everybody to just do a really serious quarantine, no going out for the next 2.5 weeks. And all of them were absolutely for it. And it was such a blessing because all of them could come and just be with us. And we have a lot of musicians that are in our family. So we had music playing, we had worship going, and that was just a blessing. We put affirmations on the wall where we were going to actually deliver the baby. And even having those affirmations around the wall was just a blessing, even in the beginning. And remembering the confessions that I was saying beforehand helped me throughout the whole process.
Wow.
And so that was just powerful within itself of just reminding myself of what I believe and of who I think I am and just having the strength to do it. And so we kind of invited our family. It was April 8th when I started having contractions. April 9th in the morning, we invited our family to come. And I want to say just during that time, it was just nice to kind of have that intimate setting because we were laughing, we were joking. We were also times that I was serious, they were praying for me down. If I was upstairs, they were praying for me downstairs and I could literally hear the prayers and just hear them just supporting me and with me. And that just helped me so much. We had my doula, who her name is Jennifer. She was absolutely amazing. She would tell me to, times where I needed to walk, times where I needed to rest, helping put a lot of counter pressure on the times that I would have contractions. And I would like to call them surges, but they were, I remember I had a lot of back labor. I could feel it so strong, which was another thing I was really hoping to God for not having back labor. But I ended up having that. And, every time she knew, I didn't even have to talk to her. We just had a connection where she knew when it was coming and she would just immediately get in position and just put counter pressure on me and make me feel, just comfortable and knowing that she was with me and she was walking with me. She never let me do anything where I was really by myself. She encouraged me, and just even times where I was feeling low, she would find one of the confessions and just on the wall and repeat them to me and remind me of who I am. It was beautiful. She would remind me of who I am, what I was believing for, and just empowering. It was really empowering. I want to say during the day, I started to get discouraged because I was really believing that I would have a quick labor, and that wasn't the case. And my husband was with me the whole time, supporting me. I mean, at the end, he was like, you're my freaking superhero. I can't even believe you did that.
Yeah.
But he was with me the whole time. And there would be times I would tell him to get some rest because he would be on my back, just massaging me, holding me. Times where I would feel like my whole body was on him. He would lift me up, he was exhausted. So I would let him sleep. And there were just some breaking points where I would just like cry and just like pray and just have to like really remind myself of like why I'm doing this. It's not just about me. It's about my baby. It's about, you know, the future. It's about me understanding who I am and what I can do. And yeah,
And
like that was.
Do you feel like
go
that's
ahead.
what kept you going? Like kept you going and just, you know, reminding yourself your why and, you know, the reasoning behind you doing this? Do you feel like that's what kept you going?
Yeah, I definitely think that's what kept me going.
Yeah.
And just
That's why
reminding
it's so important to have that, like, that reason why you're doing it, because otherwise, as soon as you start feeling something that you don't want to feel, or as soon as something derails off of your plan, it's so easy, if it's not like an anchoring reason, that you just kind of like drift off. And that's why I think it's so important for moms to really nail down like why they're wanting and pursuing the kind of birth that they're wanting.
Yeah. And I think I had to get to like 100%. This is what I want, and understand why I want it. I think before I was saying that I wanted a natural birth and I didn't really know why I wanted a natural birth. And I think that can cause a lot of concern, and that can make you derail your thinking if you don't know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And so by the times that I actually was feeling discouraged and low, I remembered my why. I remembered that I am stronger than I think. And fear and anxiety can't live in this place for me to actually do the things that I can't do. Like if I really want to show myself that I have this supernatural strength to get through it, then fear and anxiety cannot live in this same area. So I have to keep moving.
Yeah.
And that was one of those like moments. It was like midday, April 9th, where I kind of like cried, and I had to let go of what I wanted and really just release that and say like, okay, whatever I need to do to get this baby and have a healthy baby and naturally and healthy for me, healthy for the baby, I'm willing to do. I have to let go of my plans and just surrender to the process. And that was good for that moment. And then I had another moment as it started to progress, because my water didn't break.
Okay.
And it was one of those things that was discouraging, because the midwife would check me and I would think that I was so close to active labor. I was so close. And she would say like, you're still at 3 centimeters.
Yeah.
You're still at 3 centimeters. You're still at 3 centimeters. And it wasn't until I want to say around 10 o'clock p.m., April 9th, where she said, we can break your water right now, or we can keep going like this, but I think we should break your water. And by that time I was exhausted. I was very exhausted.
Because it'd been more than 24 hours at that point, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And it was, and I feel like 24 hours really does something to you, where you're like, I've been in labor for 24 hours.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that. I cannot believe that. So it was very, I think it caused some sort of concern for me, because I'm wondering, how long is this going to take?
Yeah.
Like, how much longer do I have to go?
Yeah. Like, can you take?
Yeah. Like, could I keep going? How can I keep going? So, I told my husband, like, I was very tired, and we thought about therapeutic rest, which that would mean that I would go to the hospital and get epidural. And we talked to our midwife about it, and she said, I think we should break your water. I think that's what's holding it up. Yeah. And it's going to make things more intense. And at that point I said, well, how long is intense? Because I don't know how long that's going to be. And I don't know if I can do I can, have this. And so my husband and I prayed, and we had a moment, and I just felt led that we should break the water. I felt like God was telling us to break the water and just do it. And sure enough, she broke it, and she realized that the first time she tried to break it, she couldn't break it. And it was like a very, very thick sack. Yeah. And she said, it seems like this is like very thick. Yeah. And so she tried to break it, and I could feel her tugging on it and trying to break it. And it was very strong.
Wow.
And as soon as she broke it, I felt like like, I felt like my pupils dilate. Like I was just sitting here like, whoa, like like a huge surge came. I felt, I felt this like really just supernatural strength that came over me. And I just started to move a lot stronger. I felt like I was on a consistent flow. Me, my husband, my doula, and even my best friends, like all had some sort of role to help me get into this space.
Wow.
And she broke my water around 12 and I started pushing around 3.
Wow. So
It
after
happened.
all of those hours of laboring, she broke your water, and then just in a matter of like 3 hours, really, you were ready to
Yeah.
push. Wow.
Yeah. And I had about 4 pushes and she came out at like 4:02.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
And overall, like it was such an experience for me. And I feel like it's just such a blessing to have a moment like that where you are just overcoming, like you're really surrendering to the process and you see like, I can actually do this. I never saw myself having that story of 32-hour labor or, having a long, process or delivery or whatever. I always said like, I couldn't do that. That's not my story.
Wow.
So to see that actually happen and to my whole family to watch this process was just like like we can do anything. Like we're strong enough to handle things. Like it was just inspiring for all the people that watched around me.
Yeah.
So it was really truly a transformation.
Wow, that's so sweet. Where did you give birth to her?
We get upstairs in our room. So we were
Okay,
we were in a water.
Okay, so you had
Yeah.
a water birth. I love it.
Yeah,
So
and my
sweet.
husband caught the baby and let her like kind of float to me.
Wow.
And I grabbed her and we just held her. And she was such a calm baby. Like she didn't cry. She just looked around. Like it was such a, like even thinking about it, it was such a beautiful experience. I'm so thankful that I had a different plan than what I was going to do.
Wow. And I think there's so much power in what you just said too, with, you're so thankful you had a different plan, like it wasn't going to be at the birth center like you had been planning for almost 9 months of your pregnancy. All of a sudden it got switched, and then it happened so differently than you imagined it was going to be. You imagined a short labor, it ended up being a 32-hour one. And here you are on the other side still saying, I am so glad that it didn't go according to my plan and that it went the way that it did. And you were able to prove to yourself and your family and your husband your strength and how beautiful birth can be. And that's so powerful. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was seriously one of those messages in my mind that you may not have like the 1 hour birth or the 2 hour labor and delivery, but you have this strength that you showed yourself. And even those people, they still need strength to get through even an hour of that, because that's fast. But so for me, I know that I feel like every story, every birth story is different, and it's for their own purpose. And I feel like for mine was a purpose of faith and surrender and letting go. And you're not always in control, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And even I felt like that was my whole story, even through IVF, through getting pregnant. Like it never went the way I wanted to go, but I felt each season, each time that I struggled with something, it made me stronger and it made me better. So
yeah. And I think that's so hopeful for women too, for especially right now in this season of COVID-19, where things do feel very out of control and very unexpected. And of course, no one dreams of giving birth during a pandemic, but just to show that good things can come out of changed plans, whether or not that's getting pregnant or during your pregnancy or labor and delivery or, whatever season of life that is. There is so much hope knowing that, good can come out of change. And so I love hearing your whole journey and experience. And that's such a powerful one.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was such a blessing to connect with you. I'm so glad that I actually listened to your fear and anxiety affirmations or it was the confessions that you had on YouTube. And I listened to that right before I went into labor, and it just so happened to work out that way. So that was very helpful.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. It just shows how powerful words are, you know, and how believing in your mind what your body can accomplish is like, you know, so often our minds are what hold us back. And so freeing ourselves and being able to surrender that and trust that our bodies and babies are built to be born and give birth, you know, is so important. If you could, like thinking back to your birth experience, what was one thing that your husband did or your doula did or your midwife did or someone did that you were like, this is, I feel like, what helped me the most during my birth experience?
I would say my midwife and my doula, I would say they believed in me more than I believed in myself. Wow. That was probably the biggest thing. They saw parts of strength in me that I didn't see. And so that's why, like there was a moment where after I had my baby, and I was telling my doula, I was like, I never saw myself doing something like this. And she said, girl, I saw it when you were going up and down flights of stairs. Usually people do like maybe 16 flights. You did 28. You're a strong girl.
Yeah.
I was like, really? And it's just certain things that I didn't realize that I was doing during my labor where she was like, you can do this. You are strong. You're able to handle this. That was big for me.
Yeah. And sometimes hearing someone else say it is like, oh, wow. Like I didn't believe it for myself, but clearly you see something. And so it's like, that's what's so empowering.
Right. And my midwife was just, I felt like I could trust her. I could trust her with her knowledge. I can trust her with her information when she tells me not to do something or to do something, because there was a time I was being a complete baby. I was like, can I go in the shower? She was like, no, you need to do this. I was like, no. So her like knowing what to do to help me to just keep moving or progress labor was extremely helpful for me. My husband, I can name 1,000 things, but he was just, as a birthing partner, he was there through the teaching of, you know, like going through the birthing classes. He remembered things that I didn't remember. By the time that I was in labor, he knew my blood pressure. Like he was very in tune to my body, what's supposed to happen. Like, even if you watched our video at the end, he was like, I thought he was moving the baby. He was like, no, remember, you know, the baby's going to pivot.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you see? Yeah. And he was like, yeah, the baby's going to pivot, and, you know, she's going to do this. She's going to do that. I'm like, how do you remember this stuff?
You mean when she's like, when her head is born and like and her body turns to face your thigh and for the rest of her body to be born.
And he knew all of that. He also remembered all of like, you know, counter pressure movements. He was rubbing me. He was just talking to me, and he was being very in tune on when to talk to me and when not to talk to me, when to just hold me, when to be there. Like he wasn't, sometimes he can be like extremely joking sometimes, but he was like very dead on serious that day. So he was an amazing birthing partner to be with. I felt like he was with me throughout the whole labor. He was laboring with me. I felt like everybody that was there, that was in the process, was not just spectators. They were all there doing something purposeful, and that was important to me.
Yeah. And I think that that's, you know, when you're writing your birth plan and thinking about who's going to be in your birth space, do you think it's important that everyone who is there has a role that they're playing?
Yes. I think even if it's a role of them getting you food, like my brothers came and they just were there to just give me drinks and make sure that I was staying hydrated. Our best friend came and he was playing the guitar. Like my mom was just like at the door, just making sure we needed something. There was nobody that I felt that came that did not have a purpose. Yeah. And it made me feel like we were all in this together, even though at the end of the day, it's my body. It's, you know, it's me that has to do it. But to have that support of like, we're all here with you. Like we got you. We're not just watching this whole thing happen. And some people may not want everybody in the room, but even our midwife even told us that she said, like, the more people in the room, the longer the labor is can be
Mm.
sometimes.
Mm.
And she said that wasn't the case for you because everybody was in tune. Everybody
Yeah.
was just focused and with
Yeah.
you. So
Yeah.
that was
And I
helpful.
think you're exactly right that, anyone who comes into your birth space should be adding to your experience, not just spectating or taking away by any means. It's how are they
Right.
going to contribute to this experience to make it a positive and a productive one, because at the end of it, we need to have a baby born, and so how can
Yes.
they help in that process and doing that? And so that's so
Yeah.
amazing. And you're right, it looks so different for every woman. Like, I just talked to another mom who shared that, like, for her birth, it was like her and her husband, that was it. She didn't want anyone else, and
Yeah.
that's some women. And then other women are like, no, I need that support system. I need to have those people who are close to me in order to feel safe and confident. And so that's so
Right.
amazing that even during this time where there is a lot of isolation, that you're able to have that. That really is like kind of a miracle.
It was
That's so
legit a
cool.
miracle. And I'm thankful that everybody was everybody was able to, because it's a hard time for a lot of people, especially during this labor process. Like, it's been hard for some of the pregnant, friends that I know that have to go to the hospital right now. Especially in Michigan, it's very strong in the hospital. So just, really feeling for those that do have to go to the hospiil and hope they
Yeah.
get, an experience that they can remember and it's not traumatic. So
Yeah, and that's so possible.
yeah,
They definitely can have that. And so again, it's just realizing what your options are, weighing those risks and benefits, and then deciding what is best for you and your family. And so for those women who do have to give birth in the hospital, they do have hope for a beautiful birth
Yeah.
experience, and I'm grateful that you are showing that there is, so much hope when plans change.
Yeah.
With 3 weeks to go, and all of a sudden you're planning a home birth, and so that's not what you were expecting, but I'm so glad that you're able to walk away feeling so empowered and confident by the experience that you had.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It was really a
Yeah.
blessing.
Great. If there's one thing that you can share with mamas walking away, from your birth experience, now being 3 weeks postpartum, having time to reflect on your birth experience, what is one thing that you would share with mamas who are listening to this, like one thing that they need to know when they are approaching their birth and time with a newborn and all that?
I would say approaching birth, stay positive. Don't let the outside come in. Like, that was a big thing. Everything that's going on the outside, fix your mind on things that are of peace, and remind yourself that you are strong enough to handle this. This was not, your birth was not by accident. It's purposeful. And this is not something that is going to derail anything, because even with everything that's going on with this pandemic, a birth is still beautiful and you're able to do it. So I would also say for, I'm only postpartum of having a newborn baby, but give yourself grace.
Yeah.
Give yourself grace and sleep when the baby sleeps.
Exactly. Great advice.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much again for sharing this story with us and being vulnerable and being honest and telling the real truth. I really appreciate it, and taking the time to away from the craziness of this newborn season. I'm wishing you all the best. You do have a YouTube channel. So what is your YouTube channel for all the mamas who might be listening to this?
Oh, it is the Co-Life. Yeah, that's my YouTube channel. And our Instagram is _the Co-Life_. We honestly just talk about real situations with our life, and just, and now we're talking about having a new baby. But yeah, our birth story and the actual vlog is on our channel. So check it out.
That's awesome. Great. Well, I'll link that down. If you're watching on YouTube, then I will link it down in the description below. For other mamas who are listening on the podcast, then I will link it down in the show notes. But Lexi, thank you so much for sharing. I hope that you just have the best newborn season. Enjoy those baby snuggles. They're the best. And I'll be keeping up with you on your YouTube channel and on Instagram.
Thank you so much. I will talk to you soon.
Bye, Lexi.
Bye.
Mamas, I was so blown away by Lexi's story and her confidence through every twist and turn, the support from her birth team, and the way that she surrendered to each stage of her birth process. Whether you have a hospital birth, a home birth, a medicated or non-medicated labor, a water or land birth, you are strong, maybe stronger than you even know you are. If you need that reminder that you are built to birth and someone reminding you of your strength, you can purchase and download the Built to Birth affirmation meditations that I have linked down in the description below to listen to and use as encouragement in your pregnancy, your birth, and your postpartum period. If you are on the hunt for an online childbirth education course, I actually have the Built to Birth childbirth online course coming out for you guys very soon so that you can be educated and empowered as you approach your birth. If you go check out builttobirth.com, which I will link down in the description below, you can sign up for weekly emails for updates and information on pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, as well as updates on that course and when it's coming out. So make sure you go subscribe to that as well. So thanks for being with me in this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.